The Justice Department this week announced it will not prosecute pot smokers and dealers who aren't breaking state medical marijuana laws. But does that new policy weaken the country's war on drugs? Joining me now, retired Army General Barry McCaffrey. General McCaffrey served as drug czar under President Clinton. He's now an adjunct professor at the U.S. Military Academy. Good to have you with us, General. Tim Lynch.
Good to be there.
Director of the Project on Criminal Justice at the Cato Institute. Good to have you with us. And Professor Peter Moskos, John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York City. Good to have you with us, Professor. Let's turn to the issue of relaxing drug enforcement for medical marijuana users. I mean, is there a real and present danger that could weaken the effort to fight drug use?
It's going to strengthen the effort to fight drug use. I mean, I do hope it's an effort to fight the war on drugs, because I'm against the war on drugs. The idea that the federal government is going against the will of the people and threatening and arresting dying cancer patients, I mean, it's indefensible, that action. The people want something. The current policies don't work. We can better lower drug use through regulation, and then California is going in the right direction.
Okay. You agree?
Yes, I do. I mean, basically, Lou, some states have changed their marijuana laws to allow patients who are suffering from cancer and AIDS, people who want to use marijuana for medical reasons. They're exempt from the law. But there's been a clash between the laws of the state governments and the federal governments. The federal government has still come in and said, we're going to threaten people with federal prosecution, bring them into federal court. And what the memo does this week is change federal policy. And basically, Attorney General Eric Holder is saying, look, for people, genuine patients, people who are suffering from cancer, suffering from AIDS, these people are now off limits to federal prosecutors. It's a very small step in the direction of reform.
General, they make perfect sense for someone suffering from any one of these diseases to have that opportunity. What's your reaction?
I think there's a bit of intellectual dishonesty in the entire thing. There is zero truth to the fact that the Drug Enforcement Administration or any federal law enforcement ever threatened caregivers or individual patients. That's fantasy. It doesn't happen. More importantly, if we were talking about medical use of marijuana or THC or cannabinoids, I'd be 100% for it. But in Los Angeles, we're talking about 900 pot shops open all over the city, and the caregivers are Mexican criminal organizations with giant grows. That's a lot of the money that's murdered 14,000 people in Mexico. It's legitimate to debate the legalization of marijuana. Congress can change the law. But in the meantime, 2 Supreme Court decisions affirmed there is no diminution of the federal government's responsibility to uphold the Controlled Substance Act, nor any minimization of their ability to restrict interstate commerce in marijuana. This is complete nonsense. And by the way, Lou, Marinol, which is approved for medical use, is available in pharmacies. A doctor can write a prescription for it right now. It's synthetic cannabinoids. It's available for patients, not much used. It's not a very good drug.
What do you think?
Look, as a former police officer, I mean, I'm part of an organization called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. We know firsthand how bad drugs are. We're not trying to create this drug free-for-all. Earlier in your show, you reported on the FBI arresting gang members in L.A. I bet you not one of those gang members was running a dispensary. L.A. wants to reduce the number of dispensaries. Great. That's what regulation is all about. I know as a cop that it's a lot easier to close a store than it is to close an illegal drug shop on the corner with guys hanging out. That's what's hard to do. Better to get it under our control so we can regulate selling, we can prevent sales to minors, do all the things that bar owners and tobacco sellers do. They're not shooting each other.
And the Cato position, the libertarian position, is that this should be a matter of individual choice without regulation.
Yes, I mean, when it comes to somebody's health, they should be making decisions in consultation with their doctor, not with bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. But I have to go back to something General McCaffrey said. After California changed its laws to allow the medical use of marijuana, he was the drug czar at the time, and he came in taking a very hard line. The Clinton administration's position was that they were going to threaten doctors simply for discussing the pros and cons of using marijuana with their patients. Now, this was fought in the courts, and his policy was declared illegal and unconstitutional for violating the free speech of doctors and interfering with the doctor-patient relationship.
Nonsense.
This was ruled by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in a case called Conant, C-O-N-A-N-T.
In the Ninth Circuit?
Yes.
It stood.
Yes, it did.
All right,
Look, there's no question the Supreme Court's ruled on this twice. And by the way, Congress passes the laws, not the Department of Justice. The DOJ implements them. Look, the bottom line is the American Medical Association has never supported use of smoked medical marijuana. Neither has the Food and Drug Administration. There's hundreds of research projects on it. I think the door is wide open to any use of cannabinoids, any possible use. It does not actually help MS.
General, thank you very much. We got just a minute here. I want to give you get the last word.
There's no sign that regulating drug use does anything but decrease deaths and decrease usage rates. The question, there are millions of Americans smoking marijuana.
Now you're talking about beyond marijuana. You're saying drug use, period.
But let's just stick with marijuana for now. The question is...
No, let's stick with what I just asked you. Are you talking about marijuana, or are you talking about all drugs?
If you want, I can talk about all drugs. I believe in regulating drugs.
I'm asking what is your intent as you made that statement. Are you talking about all drugs being unregulated?
Currently, all illegal drugs are unregulated, and that's horrible. It's horrible for cities. It's horrible for lives.
All right. We thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, General.